You know, I really stepped in it this time, didn't I? Of course, that goes without saying. I want to preface today's video with the fact that everything I do is done with intent, and has always been. I choose my words carefully whenever I post anything, because I want to be sure that I am acting according to my own ethos. I have opinions which are not shared by the majority of the gaming community. For example, about a year ago, I talked about my hatred of NFS Rivals Plus on principle because I do not believe the games preservation argument is an excuse to appropriate someone else's IP. I just don't. But a lot of gamers believe that piracy is okay. That is the prevailing opinion, so anyone who expresses opposition to that opinion is going to be the enemy. Ditto for the Stop Killing Games initiative. I felt that someone like Pirate Software made some justifiable points about how that could negatively affect games. And sure enough, it negatively affected the Crew Motorfest when adding a hybrid offline mode to the Crew 2 somehow broke literally everything in Motorfest Season 8, most notably the car import feature. You cannot get something for nothing. Now we come to a more recent discussion, and this is about conduct in gaming. It is about players who throw around the phrase skill issue to describe anyone they feel is lesser than them. It is about players who have no respect for the developers of these games, literally the people for whom, if they were not here, we would have no games to play. And it is about players who treat the events which happen in video games as if these have any bearing on the physical world. You know, I go into my videos playing a version of me who treats the events of video games like they are real life, but every video I make in that style is prefaced by a disclaimer. The following is a work of fiction. The actions you take in video games have no bearing on the physical world. Being good at driving in a video game does not make you a good driver IRL. Getting kill streaks in an FPS does not make you military trained. And just because you can press buttons slightly better than someone else pressing buttons, that alone does not add any inherent value to you as a person. When I started my channel, I leaned into this a little bit. My shtick was that I didn't want to be bad at games, so I pushed myself to take on challenges that I didn't even find fun. Often, these were accompanied by the phrase, "but thou must," and I do play up the bit more when I do meme shorts and the like. Yet anytime it is an episodic series, playthroughs of Need for Speed or Motorfest for that matter, nowhere in the script do I place any emphasis on being the best. I even said in my playthrough of Donk vs. Lowrider that it was never about winning. And the whole take that reveal of that entire episode was I cheated against V2 and still lost. That was the point I don't think most people understand. So, I brought those grievances to the table when I discussed the negativity I experienced in the Motorfest community. I expected pushback, but what I did not expect was for people to literally double down on everything I had said. Everything I had accused them of. One of the accused, who I intentionally left anonymous, literally came in and doubled down by saying the user they harassed had it coming, couldn't handle the truth. And another person defended this toxic user by arguing this user is an important person because they have a world record in the Crew 2, meaning their statements should be treated as automatically credible. Both of these people got blocked and had their comments scrubbed because they couldn't realize just how stupid that sounded in practice. Although, before we move on, one additional person does get special mention because they said the quiet part out loud, and I want to just preserve this moment for historical sake. This here is the shining example of everything laid out in that video, saying you have a right to have an ego, saying you are allowed to talk shit if you quote-unquote earned it, and making the very insinuation that if you are complaining, it is because you didn't earn it like they did. How do you go into a comment section and word for word QED the shit out of it with a straight face? So yeah, that is where we are in this particular moment. And it only escalated from there because other people assumed I was just bad at the game or bad at Grand Race. First of all, I don't even play Grand Race. I have 0 race points because I just don't play that mode. And second, when I called exploits in Grand Race and single player alike cheating, I did so under the pretext that they are, and the game itself is meta aware of this. There are 2 ways to affirm this. The first is that Weasel accuses you of cheating in Donk vs. Lowrider, which, again, I completely lampshaded. And the second is that for certain exploits, Ivory Tower has had to patch the game. Repeatedly. I have even made videos regarding some of them. But even with all of that in mind, I want to reiterate a paragraph from that video. And to be honest, if that is what it takes to win, that's fine. If you want to be first that badly, that's fine. But what isn't fine is the way in which these players talk absolute shit about anyone who isn't them. When you go into someone's comments and try to refute their argument by saying, this person is bad at the game so they have no credibility, that is a literal QED, as I said earlier. The only way that a person being bad at the game would damage their credibility is if being good at the game is what establishes it. That is the thread. The moment you identify that thread as being the bullshit that it is, the entire argument falls apart. Really, what kills me about everything that has happened over the past few weeks is that I went into the Motorfest server with one goal, and that was to find people who see Motorfest as I do. Basically, people who see the narrative potential of the game. There were maybe 2 or 3 people who were into that. Literally nobody else was. I did not want to deal with the competitive players at all from the moment I walked in there. And all of this started because I decided to take it upon myself to stand up for someone else who was being harassed. Someone else who was seen as not good enough. The response to my earlier video proved, to me, more than anything else, that the Motorfest community is not somewhere I would ever want to be. Because here's how I see it. I do get gold in nearly every summit. That is enough for me as a player, and I don't need to leverage that as being proof of anything. If I was the kind of person who had to use virtual clout to justify my existence in the space, I would be miserable. I would hate myself on principle. But as I alluded to in the intro, this is not just about Motorfest. This is about gaming as a whole. Why did I force myself to beat Rajang in Monster Hunter World Iceborne? Why did I force myself to 100% the Cuatro Colinas Hunting Reserve in Call of the Wild? Why did I force myself to replay COD 4 on Hardened after 15 years when Standard would have been fine? And why did I force myself to finish Star Trucker when it was an entirely broken game? The answer to all of these questions is simple. It is the illusion of credibility. I felt pressured to be good at these games before I could be comfortable talking about them. Being good doesn't always mean being the best, but it does mean being above a certain threshold. Having an achievement held by less than 10%, 1%, 0.1% of players. We treat that like it is supposed to mean something. It doesn't mean anything. Honestly, while I have a few projects left to run, I think I am about finished with Motorfest. I see no reason to run summits anymore, and I see no reason to even bother with the community. I really feel like I need to find a different game with a community that actually uplifts its player base rather than tearing them down. I suppose that is something I will have to think about as we enter the new year. Thanks for listening.